Today I'm going to show you how I got some smooth rocks for painting from Home Depot online. Let's start by navigating the website. So we're going to open up all the departments and we're going to scroll down through all of the Home Depot departments. And I actually went past where I need to go. I'm going to come back here to Lawn and Garden. We're going to click that. It's going to open this up and we're going to go to Landscaping. And then we're going to go to Landscaping Rocks. There are lots of categories here, but I tend to stick to the river rock because that's the ones that are going to be nice and smooth and perfect for your painting. You're also able to sort the rock types by bag weight, the type of rock, the cost, and the size. So I filtered here to the Rainforest Pebbles, and these are some of the options that you see. And you can see they're very smooth and perfect for painting, different sizes, different colors, different price points. I chose ship to store, and about a week after my order, I got the notifications that my order was ready. I pulled into the reserve spot, clicked the link, and out they brought the rocks. It's like Christmas in my trunk. Let's check out what I got. These are black polished river pebbles. I've never tried these before. It was new, inexpensive at $11.98 for a 30-pound bag. So let's see what they look like. So first impressions, I'm really excited about how smooth these are, and they're shiny. They do feel like they've got some sort of something going on. I had a little bit of residue in my hand and they're so shiny. It kind of makes me wonder if there's something to that polish, something on there, but they're perfectly shaped and smooth. This next batch is a 20-pound bag of Mexican beach pebbles. They're a little bit larger. They're 3 to 5 inches. If you've been around the channel for any length of time, you've seen me work on these. They're one of my favorites, and this is where I get them. I get them from Home Depot online. I love how smooth they are. I love the color of them, and they're just a great canvas for rock painting. And the last box is another new item that I've never tried before. These are Caribbean beach pebbles, and they're white. So these were about $21 for 30 pounds. Again, they're larger, so they're 3 to 5 inches. And when I pulled them out, they kind of remind me of round Santorini stones because they have a similar kind of dust, and they kind of feel like they might be a little bit porous like the Santorini stones. I store my rocks outside in a big bin from Costco because I just have so many, too many to keep inside. Another thing about the Caribbean beach pebbles that reminds me of Santorinis is it looks like they have a little bit of rust on them, which happens with Santorinis. It's easy to file or sand off, but they are super smooth, a little bit of that dust. I do think that the polished stones have some sort of coating on them, so I'm a little bit curious how that's going to work out. I always wash all of my rocks and let them completely dry before I work on them. I just use dish soap and a brush like this, and I scrub all of them to get any dirt or dust or any kind of residue off of the rocks. Anything that can interfere with the paint adhering to the rocks. I just want to try and get all of that off, and then I rinse them off with water and I make sure that they are completely dry before I work on them at all. Now I'm going to do a little bit of a paint test on each of these rocks to show you how the paint adheres. The first one that I'm going to work on is these black polished stones, and I noticed that if I scratched with my fingernail, there was some sort of coating on there. You can kind of see where my fingernail left the scratch marks. But I want to see how paint will adhere with whatever this coating is on before we try and remove it or have to sand it off. So I'm going to start out with a light coat of Liquitex gesso. I use this almost all the time as my base coat. It just helps on anything that's super smooth and shiny, or if you need to help get a nice vibrant color and full coverage of whatever color you're putting on. Then I picked a nice kind of bright green that could be difficult for full coverage, and I'm going to paint it across both the gesso and the plain rock so that you can see the difference or not that the gesso makes in helping get full coverage of the color. So you can already see here that under the gesso, it's a little bit better. Now I'm going to add a second coat of gesso to the top coat just to see if a second coat helps anymore. And I think what it does is highlight how the gesso helps, and putting the paint directly on the rock is not as good. I was also pleasantly surprised that the paint seems to adhere fine to these rocks even with the coating, so I'm not going to bother trying to sand all of that off. Now we're going to do the same test on the Caribbean beach pebbles, and you can't really see the gesso as much because this stone is more white, but I suspected that the gesso would be helpful on these stones because they feel porous like a Santorini. So the gesso kind of gives a nice seal under the paint so that you get good coverage. And again, you can see the paint that's on top of the gesso has better coverage and is a little more vibrant than the paint directly on the rock. And again, the second coat of gesso makes a difference also. Now let's do the same test on our third and final rock, which shouldn't be too much of a surprise if you've been around since we've used Mexican beach pebbles around here. But first coat of the gesso and the green paint, you can see that there is better coverage with the gesso. And then adding the second coat of gesso where you really can't even see the rock through it, and then the paint. And again, we see that the coverage is just a little bit brighter over the gesso and definitely better than the paint directly on the rock. So big plug for using the gesso. If you don't have it, you could use white chalk paint or even white paint as a base coat. Now let's take a look at the rocks with resin. This is a Mexican beach pebble with resin applied directly on the back. There's no base coat, so it's nice and dark. If you don't want it to be this dark, you can add a coat of Mod Podge. This is also a Mexican beach pebble, but it keeps the color nice and light. So Mod Podge before the resin, and then you get this lighter color. This is one of the polished pebbles with resin directly applied, so it looks kind of like it's base coated black, but you still can see some of the details of the rock. And this is the white Caribbean beach pebble, and it looks great with the resin on it. You could also base coat these rocks any color you wanted as well and just take advantage of how smooth they are. I hope this video helped you find some ideas of where you can get some smooth rocks for painting. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so you don't miss future uploads. Thank you so much for stopping by to watch, and I'll see you next time. Take care.